Onitsha market was noisy that Monday evening. The sun had started to go down, but the crowd refused to rest. People moved up and down like waves. Some were rushing to buy their last goods. Others were already on their way home. The smell of roasted corn, fried yam, and sweat filled the air. Children cried. Traders shouted. Kiki horns sounded here and there. But in one corner of the market, far away from the shiny shops and painted buildings, a man bent beside the public dustbin. His name was Samuel. He was not a trader. He had no shop. He had no stall. He had no family around. What he had was a bag slung over his shoulder and strong hands used to picking trash. He went from bin to bin, searching through old cartons, empty bottles, broken irons. Anything he could gather and sell to scrap collectors for food. People called him many names. Dirty man. Smelling goat. Why won't the government chase him away? Young girls would cover their noses when they saw him. Boys would laugh behind him and mimic his walk. If he tried to speak to anyone, they would first laugh, then insult him. Who are you to talk to me? Some would spit. Some would kick his bucket. Some would pour water on him. Yet, Samuel never raised his voice. He never fought back. He would only wipe the sweat on his forehead and quietly say, God sees everything. Samuel didn't always live like this. But no one knew that. And he didn't explain. He believed life was testing him. And maybe, just maybe, someone would one day see beyond the dirt on his clothes. That evening, his stomach made a loud sound. He hadn't eaten since morning. All he had in his bag were used tins, broken wires, and 2 empty bottles. He sighed and leaned into the dustbin again, trying to find something, anything, that could buy him food. Just then, a car door slammed shut near the market's parking area. A woman was locking her car. She looked back and saw a man bending beside the dustbin. At first, she wanted to walk away. But something made her stop. She turned fully and watched him. He looked weak, thin, tired. His trousers had holes, and his shirt looked like it had never seen soap. Hey, she called gently. Samuel looked up, confused. Nobody spoke kindly to him in that place. Yes, Ma, he said softly, stepping closer. What are you doing at that bin by this time? She asked. Samuel rubbed his neck and looked away. I'm hungry. I'm just looking for what I can sell, so I can eat something tonight. The woman looked at him for a long time. Then, without saying a word, she opened her handbag and brought out some money. She gave it to him and said, Buy hot akra and pap. At least eat something good tonight. Samuel's eyes widened. She continued, Here. Take this card. Come and see me tomorrow. Cafe beside the big pharmacy. 8 o'clock. Samuel took it slowly, like someone holding a gift from heaven. God bless you, Ma. She smiled gently. My name is Clara. That night, Samuel used the money. He sat alone behind a kiosk, eating akra and pap. The food was hot, soft, and sweet, but the tears that rolled down his face made it salty. Not from sadness, but from the rare taste of kindness. He looked up at the sky and whispered, Thank you. He didn't know yet, but that one act of kindness was about to change his entire life. The next morning came slowly. Samuel didn't sleep well. Not because the ground was too hard or the mosquitoes too many, but because his heart was full. He kept looking at the small business card in his hand. It was clean, white, and carried the name Clara Williams written in gold letters. He had never held something that fine in his life. He woke before the sky changed color. He went to the stream at the edge of the market and washed himself. He scrubbed his arms with sand, rinsed his mouth with bitter leaves, and changed into his best clothes. They were still worn out, but they were clean. As he walked toward the cafe, his heart beat fast. He didn't know why this woman had been so kind. He didn't know what she wanted. Maybe she would give him a small job. Maybe she just wanted someone to talk to. Or maybe, just maybe, she had a good heart. He reached the cafe by 8 on the dot. It was a small, quiet place with brown plastic chairs and the sweet smell of bread and tea floating in the air. He stood by the entrance, too shy to enter. But then he saw her. Clara was sitting inside, by the window. She wore a yellow dress and had her hair tied in a low bun. Her eyes were fixed on her phone, but the moment she looked up and saw him, she smiled. You came, she said warmly. Samuel nodded. Yes, Ma. Sit down. And stop calling me Ma, she said with a light laugh. He sat slowly, careful not to scrape the chair. A waitress came and Clara ordered 2 plates of yam and egg sauce with hot tea. Samuel kept his eyes down. You said your name is Samuel, right? She asked. Yes, he said quietly. Tell me about yourself. He lifted his eyes slowly. No one had ever asked that before. He took a deep breath and began. I used to live in Enugu with my parents. We had a good life. My father was a teacher, and my mother sold wrappers. But after their death, everything finished. I came to Onitsha to look for work. I tried many places, but no one would hire me. I slept outside, and hunger became normal. So I started picking trash. That's how I survive. Clara listened, eyes soft. I'm sorry, she said gently. People can be very wicked to those who have nothing. He nodded. Sometimes, I wonder if kindness is still alive in this world. But yesterday, you showed me it is. She looked away, suddenly quiet. Many people have taken my kindness and used it against me, she said. Especially men. I help them, feed them, support their dreams. And they leave me. Some even insult me. She laughed bitterly. I have money. I have a house. But I don't have luck in love. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Samuel said softly, maybe God wants to bless both of us. Just in a way we don't expect. Clara looked at him. There was nothing shiny about him. No car, no perfume, no gold. But there was something pure in his voice. Something honest. From that moment, something shifted. They finished their food and talked more. About books. About music. About how hard life could be. When they stood to leave, Clara said, same time tomorrow? Samuel smiled. Yes. Same time. And as he walked back to his corner of the market, something inside him whispered, this is not just a meal. This is the beginning of something. Samuel didn't return to his usual corner that afternoon. Instead, he went straight to the small room he had rented under a different name. It was a dusty, windowless place beside an old welding shop. The roof leaked when it rained. The mattress was thin. But Samuel had chosen it. Because this life of hardship was not truly his. Underneath his fake name and dirty clothes, Samuel was one of the richest men in Anambra State. Owner of large estates, shares in transport companies, and silent partner in several supermarkets across the southeast. He didn't need to pick trash. He didn't need to starve. He didn't need to beg. He was only pretending. He had lived in wealth all his life. His parents were still alive, healthy and well in their mansion in Akka. But years ago, when he told them he wanted to test life without money, they didn't understand. Why would a prince choose to live like a servant? His mother had asked with tears in her eyes. But Samuel had made up his mind. I want to know if true love still exists. Not love for my wallet or my cars, but love for the man I am. So, he left everything behind. He changed his name, removed all signs of wealth, and became a trash picker in Onitsha market. For almost a year, he watched people closely. Watched how they treated him. Watched how cruel the world could be to a man with nothing. But now, for the first time, someone had looked at him with compassion. Clara. That night, he removed a small hidden phone from a hole in the wall. It was his real phone, switched off during the day, only used for checking messages from his manager and family. He opened a voice note from his mother. Samuel, Biko, come home. This test has gone too far. Do you want to bury yourself in the dust just to prove a point? Your father is worried. We all are. He didn't reply. He just stared at Clara's card on the table, then smiled to himself. The next morning came with soft winds and the smell of roasted yam. He wore the same clean shirt, combed his hair a little better, and walked to the cafe. Clara was already waiting. Her face lit up when she saw him. You came, she said warmly. I couldn't miss it, he replied. They ordered toast and hot cocoa this time. As they ate, Clara talked more about her charity work, the school she once sponsored in Nui, and how she stopped because people kept using her. I once helped a man pay his rent, fed him for months, even bought him a phone. But the moment he found a better job, he left me without a goodbye, she said, her eyes far away. Samuel listened quietly. Every word she spoke made him see her more clearly, not just as a woman who gave money, but a woman who gave her heart, and had it crushed every time. When they finished eating, he surprised her. He brought out a small food flask from a plastic bag and said, I made this for you. It's not much. Just beans and plantain. Clara blinked. You cooked? He nodded. From my small stove. I wanted to do something for you, even if it's small. She opened the flask and tears filled her eyes. It wasn't the food. It was the thought, the effort, the heart behind it. Thank you, Samuel, she whispered. And for the first time since she met him, she held his hand. Samuel felt something warm rise in his chest. It wasn't about the test anymore. It wasn't about proving anything. He just didn't want to let her go. From that day, something changed between Clara and Samuel. It was not loud. It was not rushed. It was quiet, like how the sun rises without noise. Every morning, they met at the cafe. And every day, their bond grew stronger. They no longer sat across from each other like strangers. Now they sat side by side, their arms almost touching, their eyes sometimes meeting for too long. Clara had stopped asking who Samuel really was. She no longer cared about his torn shirt or faded trousers. He didn't smell like money, but he smelled like peace. He didn't carry car keys, but he carried respect. And most of all, he listened. He listened like he had all the time in the world. One morning, they sat under a mango tree behind the cafe. The market was beginning to come alive, but they were in their own world. Clara had brought bread and groundnut paste in a nylon bag. Samuel brought warm kunu. They sat on a wooden bench, eating slowly. "I don't remember the last time I laughed this much," Clara said, smiling softly. Samuel chuckled. "And I don't remember the last time someone saw me beyond this," he pointed to his clothes, and didn't turn away. Clara touched his hand gently. "Maybe God wanted us to meet like this, without noise. Without status, just heart to heart." He looked at her, eyes deep and full. "Do you believe in love at all?" he asked. Clara went quiet. "I used to," she said at last. "I used to believe love meant giving, helping, standing by someone. But I gave everything to people who only came to take. Now, I don't know. Maybe love is not for me." Samuel didn't speak. He only nodded slowly. But inside him, something stirred. She didn't know the truth yet. She didn't know she was sitting beside one of the richest men in the region. A man who could buy the entire cafe without blinking. A man who had chosen the dust so he could find gold, gold like her. That evening, after their time together, Samuel didn't return to the trash bin. Instead, he went to a small room beside an orphanage. It was a secret place he used whenever he wanted to be alone. He removed his fake ID, opened a locked briefcase under the bed, and took out his laptop. He sent a message to his assistant. "Tell the lawyer to prepare a foundation file under the name Clara Hope Trust. Use my private funds. Don't tell anyone." He then stared at the screen for a long time. He was falling, not just into love, but into something deeper. Something real. He didn't want to lie to her forever. But he also didn't want to ruin the purity they were building. What if she hated him after the truth? What if she thought he came to play with her heart? But more than his fear, he trusted the kindness in her. The next day, he came with a small gift, a scarf, neatly folded with a sunflower print. "I saw it and thought of you," he said shyly. Clara smiled, held it against her chest, and whispered, "Nobody has ever given me something this thoughtful." Samuel wanted to say, "Wait till you see what else I have in store." But he held his tongue. Because love, true love, was not rushed. It was built, one simple moment at a time. Rain had fallen the night before. When morning came, Onitsha Market smelled of wet earth, charcoal smoke, and boiled maize. Potholes were filled with brown water. Women in wrappers balanced buckets on their heads. Children ran barefooted, their laughter echoing through the streets. Inside the cafe, Clara sat by the window waiting. Her eyes looked out, but her thoughts were deep inside her heart. She had grown used to seeing Samuel each morning now. She wasn't sure when it happened, but her heart now rested in the comfort of his presence. His voice calmed her. His words soothed her. And though he had nothing to give in the eyes of the world, he had given her more than all the rich men she had ever known. When he finally walked in, his shirt still old but neatly ironed, her smile came before her words. "You're late," she teased gently. Samuel grinned. "Forgive me. I was helping an old woman carry her basket." Clara chuckled. "You, always helping someone." They ordered food, but they didn't touch it immediately. Today, their eyes held more questions. Their words carried more weight. Samuel spoke first. "Clara, there's something I want to say. But I'm afraid." She looked at him carefully. "Afraid of what?" "Afraid that when you know everything, you'll no longer see me the same way." She tilted her head. "What more could I know about you, Samuel? I've seen the worst. I've seen the dirt. I've seen the hunger. And yet, you still carry dignity." He smiled sadly. "Yes, but sometimes truth is harder to accept than lies." She reached across the table and touched his hand. "Whatever it is, say it. I'm not perfect either." But he couldn't say it. Not yet. Not when the bond between them was this fragile and beautiful. Not when every day with her felt like a gift he didn't want to lose. Instead, he said softly, "You've changed something in me, Clara. Before I met you, I doubted the goodness of people. I thought maybe the world had become cold and selfish. But you're different. Clara looked down. Her eyes were wet. I've been kind to many, she said. But only you have made me feel like I'm not wasting my kindness. They sat in silence for a moment, the morning market noise distant behind the cafe's glass. Later that day, Samuel walked with her through the market for the first time. People stared. Some whispered. Why was Clara, the classy woman who drove a fine car, walking beside that man? That same man who used to pick trash? But Clara didn't care. She held her head high and smiled beside him. Samuel, for the first time in many months, didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel like the dirty man. He felt seen, valued, whole. As they reached her car, she turned to him. Samuel, she said, if I ever fall in love again, I want it to be with someone who brings me peace. Someone like you. He looked at her, heart pounding, and in a low, deep voice he replied, then let me be that peace. She smiled, entered her car, and drove off. Samuel stood there for a while, staring at the dust the car left behind. Then he whispered to himself, she loves me for who I am, not what I have. But he knew the time was coming. The time to show her the truth. And when it came, everything would change. Days passed, and every day Samuel and Clara grew closer. They no longer met only at the cafe. Sometimes they would walk by the river that ran behind the market. Other times they would sit under the tree at the back of a small church. They talked about many things, life, pain, laughter, God, dreams. It felt like they had known each other for years. One Sunday morning, Clara brought jollof rice in a small cooler. She had made it herself. They sat on a bench under the tree, and as they ate, Samuel watched her. She didn't know. She didn't know that the very land that cafe sat on belonged to him. She didn't know that the money she used at the market was helping build his silent investments. She didn't know that the dirty man beside her owned 5 houses in 3 cities, and a private beach house he had never shown anyone. But she smiled at him like he was her everything. And that scared him. He didn't want to hurt her. He didn't want to wait too long. But still something held him back. That evening, as he walked back to his small room, he sat on the mat and stared at the ceiling. He remembered what his father once told him before he began this test. Son, the heart does not know the weight of a wallet. But the world does. If you find someone who sees your soul before your shoes, that's rare. But be careful. Don't keep secrets too long, or love will feel like a lie. He picked up his hidden phone and dialed his assistant. Yes, sir, the voice on the other end said quickly. Samuel kept his voice low. I want you to send me one of the cars. Not the flashy ones. Something quiet. Tell the driver to wait 3 streets away from the market. Tomorrow. Midday. Should I alert the security detail? His assistant asked. No. No guards. Not yet. He ended the call. The next morning, he met Clara at the cafe like always. But this time, his eyes were serious. Clara, he said, I want to take you somewhere. She looked at him, surprised. Where? Just trust me. They walked out of the market, turning through small streets. At the 3rd junction, a clean black SUV waited. Clara stopped walking. Samuel, she said slowly, whose car is that? Samuel didn't answer. The driver stepped out and opened the back door. Clara stood still. I don't understand, she whispered. Samuel turned to her, his voice gentle. I need you to come with me. I owe you the truth. They entered the car. Silence filled the space between them. After 20 minutes, the car drove through a long, quiet road lined with trees. At the end stood a tall gate. It opened slowly, revealing a peaceful compound with flowers, a fountain, and a mansion that looked like something from another world. Clara's mouth parted in shock. The car stopped. Samuel stepped out and turned to help her. She stepped out too, slowly. Where are we? She asked, confused. Samuel looked into her eyes. This is my home. She blinked. No, you're a trash picker. You told me your parents. My parents are alive, he said gently. And I'm not poor. I never was. Her face turned pale. Her hands dropped to her side. Tears began to form in her eyes. I don't understand. You lied to me. He shook his head. I disguised myself to find someone who would love me, not my money. And you did. Her chest rose and fell. She didn't know whether to be angry or to cry or to run. She just stood there staring at him. And in a whisper she said, So, who are you really? Samuel stood still. Clara's question hung in the air, heavy like the rain clouds gathering in the sky. So, who are you really? He took a quiet breath and walked a few steps away, then turned to face her again. His eyes were soft but firm. "My name is Samuel Chiquiti," he said slowly, "son of Chief Edwin Chiquiti. I own estates in Aka, Enugu, and Lagos. My businesses run in transport, property, and oil. I have workers across Nigeria. I've never known hunger until I chose it." Clara said nothing. She stood in the middle of the grand compound, the cool wind brushing her hair. Behind her was the luxury. The clean tiles, the trimmed flowers, the tall walls. Before her stood the man she thought she knew. Samuel took a few steps closer. "I left everything behind to find one thing, real love. Not the kind that comes with gifts or big cars. The kind that sees a man in the dirt and still chooses him." She turned her face away. Her voice was quiet, shaking. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to destroy what we were building. I was afraid that once you knew, you'd treat me differently." She looked at him again, eyes wet. "I never loved you because of your clothes, Samuel. I loved you because of your heart. The way you listened. The way you were honest. The way you looked at me like I mattered." Her voice broke. "But now I feel like I don't even know who I've been talking to." Samuel stepped even closer. He reached for her hand, but stopped halfway. "You know me, Clara. The real me. That man who sat beside you every morning. Who made beans and plantain for you. Who smiled when you smiled and watched the sky with you after breakfast." She looked at him, breathing deeply. "I want to believe that," she whispered. He gently reached for her hand this time. She didn't pull away. "Clara," he said, "everything I said about how I felt for you was true. I never lied about my heart. Only my pocket. But I did it to protect something rare, something I found in you." They stood there for a long time. Not talking. Just holding hands. Clara finally spoke again, her voice soft but steady. "You broke my heart, Samuel. Not because you're rich, but because you hid that from me. But I can't lie. I also feel proud." "Proud?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes. Because while people were laughing at me for walking beside a trash picker, I was walking beside a king." He smiled weakly. She wiped her tears and said, "Give me time, Samuel. This truth is heavy. But I won't throw away the love we've built. Not yet." He nodded slowly. "I'll wait. No matter how long." Later that evening, Samuel drove her home. Not in a flashy car, but in the same quiet SUV. He didn't talk much. Neither did she. But something had settled between them. Not pain. Not anger. Just a silent understanding that love, real love, must pass through fire before it becomes gold. Weeks passed. Clara didn't run away from Samuel, but she didn't rush back into his arms either. She needed time. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to understand the new world she had suddenly stepped into. Samuel gave her that time. He didn't call too much. He didn't pressure her. Instead, he continued being the man she had come to know. The simple man. The gentle one. He still bought her roasted corn in the evenings. Still sat with her at their mango tree. Still listened more than he spoke. But now, she knew the truth behind the quiet smile. She knew that the same man who once picked from dustbins was the same man who could buy the entire market with one phone call. And that knowledge humbled her. One afternoon, she walked into the cafe first, like old times, and found a note under her teacup. It read, "If love was meant to be loud, I would have shouted it from rooftops. But because it is sacred, I whisper it here, where we began. Will you marry me, Clara?" Her heart jumped. She looked around, but Samuel wasn't there. Until she turned around and saw him kneeling at the entrance, holding a small box in his hand. The cafe staff paused. Even customers stopped eating. The market noise outside faded. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't need time anymore. She already knew her answer. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Samuel." The whole cafe clapped. Samuel stood, smiling, and held her close. No one saw the diamonds in the ring. They only saw the way she smiled as if all her wounds had found healing. The wedding day came like a dream. It was held at a quiet estate Samuel owned, one that Clara had never seen before. White chairs lined the green grass. Palm fronds waved in the gentle breeze. There were no celebrities, no cameras. Just people who mattered. Orphans Clara had once helped, friends from the market, and a few members of Samuel's family. Clara wore a simple but beautiful gown. Her hair was tied in a soft bun. Her smile outshone the sun. Samuel wore a white native attire, clean and royal, yet still humble. His parents stood behind him, proud but quiet. As Clara walked toward the altar, her hands shaking, she looked at Samuel and saw not wealth, not fame, but home. When the pastor asked him, "Do you take this woman?" Samuel looked into her eyes and said, "With all that I am and all I have I do." When it was her turn, Clara took a small breath and replied, "I loved you when I thought you had nothing. And now I see that you had everything. But I'm glad you gave me your heart first." "I do." They kissed to soft cheers. But more than that kiss, it was the story that stayed in everyone's heart. The story of a woman who gave her kindness to a trash picker, and a billionaire who gave his truth to a woman who saw him as a man, not a wallet. That night, as the stars filled the sky, Clara sat with Samuel in the garden of their new home. She leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for testing the world. And thank you for choosing me." He smiled. "I chose you," he said gently, "because you loved me when I had only dust. Now I'll spend forever giving you gold." And they sat there in silence, two hearts that found each other in the most unexpected place. At the corner of a market, beside a dustbin, where love was never supposed to grow. But it did, and it bloomed. Forever.